Hello everyone, welcome back to Untitled Trades, where I make it my job to analyze the market so that you know what's going on. Today we're going to be covering probably one of my more long-term favorite stocks in the market, which is PSFE, Paysafe. It's been in crazy volume online, more on the Reddit and WSB gang out there, but today we're going to see if it can break out and what we need for it to break out. So if you find anything beneficial, please hit the sub button and join the squad. We're growing quickly, and the more people here, the better the videos get. But let's go ahead and jump into things. So the first thing I want to look at is what is Paysafe. Really quickly, it's an online payment service company. They do a lot of the back ends, as well as they have digital wallets, and they're getting into e-gaming a lot as being kind of the payment processor on the back end for companies. But it's kind of gained popularity, I would say, over the last week because of Reddit. People have been going insane on this company online and saying like this is the next pick for the Reddit gang. We're going to squeeze this thing higher, and we kind of saw some of that price action on Friday with this big candle. You can see it on this chart. But I want to look at some factors to say why it may or may not go higher, both technically speaking on the chart as well as the flow and short interest. So to start out, the first thing I want to look at is the shares available. So this is the shares float. And so you have outstanding shares, which is 700 million. But a lot of those shares are owned by people at the company as well as institutions. And so the free shares to trade on the market is around 160 million. That's not a whole lot. And I think we saw about 57 million volume on Friday. And so we saw that's about the third of the shares that are traded were available to trade were traded on Friday. And so if we see continuous volume coming in and eating up those shares, we could see the stock go higher. Tell me what you think about share flow. Do you think it's important? And is this number correct? I've been seeing some other numbers online around maybe 300 million, things like that. Tell me what you think. The next thing I want to look at is a short float. So right here we see a 13% short float. That's not crazy big if we think of what could actually push things. I think lately the stocks that we've seen pushed by Wall Street's bets and Reddit are things that are 30, 40, 50% short floated. And so this is where I have a little bit of a question mark, is if this thing gets short squeezed. The short float is small, which means we just need a lot of buying volume, but without a really high short float, it's going to be questionable of how high this can actually get squeezed, and we'll look at those numbers on a technical chart. When it comes to short interest, one thing I do want to highlight that I think is a positive is on the short squeeze that we've seen, or the squeeze higher we saw on Friday, a lot of people piled into short positions, which is really interesting. And so when we look at 624 versus 625, we see short volume increase substantially. And so this is going to be really important, is if we can continue to see volume come into the stock on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday this week, then these people are going to have to cover, because you have to think about the mentality. These people just opened up a short. They're thinking the stock's going to go lower. But if volume pumps in there and starts pushing it higher, these people are they're gonna cover their shorts instantly, which is gonna continue to put more buying pressure to the upside, which is gonna be a very big positive. Maybe not all of them will cover, but 12 million, 13 million shares, that could continue to push the stock higher. So those are a couple things when it comes to the technical side of shares and shorts. The third thing I want to look at is Reddit. So this is really big part because we're seeing a lot of activity. When we just kind of scroll through, you see, this guy started this thing 7 hours ago. This was just a couple minutes, or that one's a longer one. This one's just a couple hours ago. So you're seeing a lot of action on Reddit over the last couple days, which means there's a lot of eyes on this stock. So let's put all three factors. There's a lot of eyes on it, which if people see volume in, they're going to start buying. We do have a lot of people last week start to jump into a short position, which means they could cover, which could push the stock higher. And the third thing is we only have about 160 million shares. And so if we continue to see somewhere in like the 50 to 7 million shares traded a day, that could push the stock higher. So let's go ahead and just start getting into the charts to figure out where the price targets are, or where you might want to get out if you have a position. So the first thing I want to look at is more long term. So you have these two trend lines here, and these two trend lines, one is off the top of the wick of the candle, the other one's off the top of the body. People like to do it both ways, but I wanted to do both of those to figure out where the breakouts are. So we see on that big gap up on Friday that we did break above a trend line, and I would say jump pretty significantly above it. But on the second downward trend line, we did see it try to break above and actually come below. And so that's what we're going to want to look at, is if we can break this downward trend line. And if we do, that's going to help the positive momentum, say, over the next couple months. I also want to look at RSI. This is something I always look at. So when we look at this chart, we see that when RSI is over 50 to 57, we're in a bull phase of the run. But as soon as we break below that 50 to 57 range, we're in a bear phase of the stock. And so we see it trying to break out on Friday. And so if we continue to see volume and kind of see it do something like this, then we're going to have more positive momentum to the upside over the next few months until we break below. I need to change one of these real quick to the 50-day, because there's a couple important things in the short term. So we do see a consolidation zone for the last month, and we came down and testing, I would say, around the top of that consolidation zone. And so on Monday, we're going to want to see this stay above this zone to go higher. If we see it break back below, then it's potentially go back sideways for some time. And we're also at the 50-day EMA. So we broke above it and we came back down, and we're currently below the 50-day EMA. So we're going to want to break above that 50 EMA and break above this consolidation zone to show that there's more upside. And that's just, we're going to need to see volume coming in the stock on Monday. Let me move this back to the 100-day, and we're going to get into some price targets now. So the first price target I have is around the $12.75, and the reason is we have the 100-day EMA, as well as we have all these areas of past resistance and support. So back here it was support, back here it was support, back here it was support, back here it was support. So we're going to have a hard time breaking above that, because now it's really significant resistance. So 1275 is the first target. After that, the next target is around 1350. And the reason that is this was a big range of consolidation and support in the past. So back here it was consolidation, support. On this candle you have a big support there, and you have a lot of consolidation in this range. So the next, that makes in the future this is going to be another big area of resistance, kind of in that, I would say, $13.50 zone. We have another pretty big resistance area. So if we do break above 12 or 13.50 a share, then we could see some consolidation between $13.50 and $14. And the reason is we also have the 100-day simple moving average, as well as another area of kind of support and resistance. So I would say $12.75 is the first target, and then $13.15 to $14, somewhere in that range. If we get a ton of volume and we see a trend reversal, the top price target for me is going to be around $15. And it's just because we see a lot of consolidation. When the stock decided to break out, it really had a challenging time around this $15, and there's going to be a lot of bag holders. So whenever you see a lot of consolidation, that says that there's a lot of people holding on to shares there. And if it gets up that high, we're going to see a lot of people that have been holding on end up selling their shares around that zone. So those are the price targets I have. If for some reason we see the stock break down or volume not to come in, we need to know what to keep an eye on for the downside. And so, as I mentioned before, if we can't break above the 50-day EMA, that's going to be a very bearish sign for the stock, because we broke out with this big wick. Big wicks I do not like. That tells me there was enough buyers to keep the price up. And if we stay below this 50-day, then that's not a good sign. If we do break below into this consolidation zone and we can't break back out above it, then that's probably going to say there's some more consolidation and or downside heading into the future. A dip buy opportunity is this gap fill. So we have this big gap right here. And so whenever you see a chart with a big gap, you really want it to fill that gap, because that's going to create a more healthy long-term price action. So if the stock does break down next week, I'm going to be looking for a dip buy opportunity, buying opportunity around $11.40. That's going to be around the dip buy range for me personally. If we do break even lower, we're going to look at the trend line, and the trend line, if it holds around the $11 to $11.20 range. And so gap fill at around $11.40, and then it would really need to hold this trend line. If it can't hold this trend line, that's not looking too good for the stock. I would probably I would say my last area it would be my stop loss if I were to currently own shares, would be around $10.80, because that's around the bottom of this consolidation zone. If it breaks below, we broke below this trend line, we broke below the consolidation zone, and we would be back below this downward action, or in the middle of that downward action or price range. And so that's kind of where you're going to want to reconsider holding this in the long term, as there could be more downside. But what do you guys think? Do you think the stock's going higher next week? How much volume do you think we need for the stock to go higher? I'm really curious what you think, because I like to hear all the perspective. But guys, if you made it this far, we're 10 minutes in. Appreciate you watching the video. Please sub and join the squad. I'll also be live streaming tonight on Twitch. It's at twitch.com/stocktalkgame. Me and my buddy, we live stream every Saturday and Sunday night. Saturday we play games and talk about the stock market. On Sundays we do nothing but charting. Go in there, ask us your questions, and I'll live chart it just like I do in all these videos. But thanks for hanging around. Hopefully I'll see you back soon, and we'll talk to you on Monday, because there'll be another video out.